He was my first love. Now he's my son's teacher. The last person I expected to see standing at the whiteboard was him. I was running 10 minutes late. Mason's new teacher had scheduled the usual start of the year parent meeting. You know, grades, classroom rules, and behavior charts. Normal dad stuff. I wasn't expecting him. I stepped into that classroom, half apologizing already. Sorry, parking was a nightmare. And I saw him. Drew. My first love. My first heartbreak. The boy who tore me from the inside out and disappeared like I was nothing. Except now, he wasn't a boy. Taller, sharper, hotter. Standing at the whiteboard with his sleeves casually rolled up, explaining the math curriculum like it wasn't a crime to look that good in fitted slacks. Our eyes met. He blinked. His mouth parted slightly, like he wasn't sure if he was seeing a ghost or a memory that hit a little too hard. Ethan? His voice cracked just barely. And yeah, my brain completely short-circuited. My fingers tightened around Mason's school folder like it could anchor me. Like that thin piece of laminated cardboard was enough to stop me from absolutely spiraling. No way. This isn't happening. But it was. Oh, it definitely was. He capped the marker and stepped towards me. Wow. Hi. The corner of his mouth tugged up, unsure. Professional, maybe? Familiar? Definitely. I blinked, my mouth dry. Hey. Cool. Great. Incredible contribution, Ethan. There was this weird pause, like neither of us knew how to act. He hesitated for a second too long, then reached out a hand. A handshake. A normal, perfectly reasonable handshake. Except the second our palms touched, everything wasn't normal. His hand was warm, firm, and my skin betrayed me instantly, sparking, remembering, aching. I hated that I remembered how it felt. I hated that part of me still knew the curve of his fingers, the way his thumb used to trace slow, lazy circles over the back of my hand like we had all the time in the world. We held it too long. Both of us realized it at the same time and let go like the contact physically burned. It kind of did. Drew cleared his throat. Didn't expect to see you here, he said, rubbing the back of his neck like he always did when he was nervous. His voice was tight, like someone trying way too hard to sound casual. It's been a long time. Oh, we're doing this? Okay. I forced a swallow. Yeah, since senior year. Since you left for college early. Without saying goodbye. Remember that? The second it left my mouth, I regretted how sharp it sounded. No. Actually, I didn't. His smile faltered. Ethan, I shook my head. Nope, not falling for that. Same old scar, same old ache. Back then, Drew's parents had shoved a last-minute out-of-state scholarship in his face. He left. No warning, no texts, no calls. Just poof. Gone. Like we'd been a glitch he patched out of his life. And me? I was too proud to chase him. Too hurt to forgive him when he didn't reach back out. So Mason is in your class, I changed the subject. His eyebrows shot up. Mason, right. Wow. He laughed softly, but it sounded nervous. Disbelieving. That's great. An awkward beat, then another. The air between us felt heavier than it had any right to be, weighed down by everything unsaid. By 8 years of silence. I cleared my throat, desperate to pull myself together. So, parent-teacher meeting? Right, yeah. He fumbled for the folder on his desk like it was the most fascinating thing on earth. Let's, talk about Mason. I tried to focus. I really tried. But then he said my name again. Ethan. And it hit me right in the chest. Like it still meant something. Like no time had passed at all. A month later. I wasn't planning on signing up, but Mason slipped me the volunteer form with his name already scribbled on the parent-helper line, and this hopeful little smile like he knew I'd cave. So fine. Streamers, folding tables, chaos. I could handle that. I showed up just after lunch, trying to blend into the crowd of parents juggling craft supplies and half-inflated balloons. The place already smelled like glue sticks and permanent markers. I was halfway to the supply table when someone called my name. Ethan? I turned, and there he was. In jeans this time, navy tee hugging his shoulders, lanyard bouncing against his chest. His hair was a little messier than last week, like he'd been running around all morning. Or maybe he just always looked that good now. Oh, hey. I managed, immediately regretting the awkward stiffness in my voice. Looks like you pulled streamer duty too. He lifted a tangled spool of blue and gold with a crooked grin. Yeah, guess so. I tried to sound normal. Failed. Definitely failed. He didn't say anything for a second. Just gave me this look. Half curious, half like he wasn't totally sure this was real either. Then he gestured toward the windows. Want to start over there? Sure, yeah. Over there's good. So there we were, side by side. Taping streamers to the window frame, balancing chairs that probably weren't rated for full-grown adults. For the first few minutes it was quiet, not heavy awkward. More like figuring out where this new version of us fit. I reached up to hook the tape, so did he. Our arms brushed. Just a quick graze, bare skin. Nothing, except not nothing. Sorry, we both muttered, then both laughed. It caught me off guard, that laugh. His, softer than I remember. Mine, rougher, like I didn't use it to laugh often anymore. God, it shouldn't have felt that easy. At one point he crouched down to sort a pile of crumpled tissue paper flowers. I leaned down to help, and somehow our heads knocked together. Jeez! I jolted back. Ow! Drew winced, then started laughing again. Still as graceful as ever, huh? Hey, I am very graceful. I'll have you know I haven't tripped over anything today. Impressive, truly. His smile lingered a little too long. Warm, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. Later, while helping Mason's group set up their science project, some 4th grade masterpiece involving baking soda lava, Drew crouched beside me, pretending to scrutinize it like a serious judge. Smart kid, he said casually, nodding towards Mason. Is that a you thing? I blinked. What? The brains, his elbow nudged mine. That's from you? My hand slipped. I nearly knocked over the tray of cookies I'd been arranging. Gosh, he's... Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Or his mom. Could be anyone, really. Shut up, I thought desperately. He bit back a laugh, glancing down like he was being polite, but not. I barely survived the next half hour. The moment the last streamer was up and the folding chairs were set, I told Mason I'd be back to pick him up, and all but speed walked out. And then... I did something stupid. I went home, tore through 2 storage bins in the hall closet, tossed out an entire stack of old takeout menus and 1 broken umbrella. Until... there. That box. The one with my college acceptance letters, old movie tickets, and the yearbook. I cracked it open, thumbing through scribbled signatures and bad inside jokes until I found it. His message. Still there. Faded but legible. I hope you always smile, even when it's hard. I shut it fast, shoved it back like it burned. Because what the hell was I doing? That was a lifetime ago. A different version of me. Before my ex-wife, before bills, before parent-teacher meetings, before late nights spent Googling how to make a 4th grader eat vegetables without crying. This was ridiculous. I wasn't 17 anymore. But for the first time in years, something on my chest felt a little less quiet. 3 weeks later, a part of me wanted to bail. Honestly, I almost did. But 2 days ago, Mason came home scowling. Mr. Parker said I've been distracted, he muttered, kicking at his shoes. He thinks maybe I'm not trying hard enough. It stung. Not because Drew was wrong. Mason had been moodier, but because now Drew wasn't just a ghost from my past. He was critiquing my kid. We've exchanged a few tense emails. Strictly professional, strictly short. Strictly me staring at my laptop way too long, wondering if I was reading too much into, let's discuss this at the picnic. So yeah, I showed up. For Mason. Definitely not for Drew. But fate's cruel humor meant every bench was either full of or sticky with juice boxes. And guess who patted the spot next to him like it was nothing? Drew. "We can talk," he offered. Neutral. Too neutral. The kind people use right before emotionally punching you in the ribs. I sat, stiff. Mason bolted toward the relay races without a second glance. For 5 minutes, Drew kept it professional. Teacher voice, polite smiles, awkward moat firmly in place. Then his elbow brushed mine, barely a whisper, and softer. "You're even more beautiful than I remembered." I forgot how to breathe. His fingers grazed my wrist like it was the most casual crime in existence. My brain short-circuited. I stood too fast, whacking my knee on the bench, nearly face-planting over a rogue juice pouch. "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" a mom gasped. Cue the swarm. 2 PTA moms, a dad with a man bun, and that grandma who bakes too many cookies. "Oh," one mom gasped. "You're Mason's dad. We were just talking about how committed you are, always showing up." Another grinned. "Very committed. Love seeing engaged parents." Her eyes flicked between me and Drew like she was mentally designing our wedding invites. Grandma Cookie tilted her sunglasses. Mr. Parker's never this smiley at family events. Drew coughed, ears visibly pink. The dad leaned in. "Did you two know each other before? You've got that vibe." "What vibe?" My voice cracked. "You know," he wiggled his eyebrows. "History?" I nearly dove into the potato salad. "Nope, no vibe, definitely not." Drew, ever helpful, muttered, "There's some vibe." Across the field, Mason's laughter echoed, completely oblivious that his father was being interrogated like it was small-town TMZ. Then came the shadow. "Oh, hi, Ethan, right?" said a voice sugar to death but sharp enough to cut steel. "Mrs. Peterson, PTA queen, master of passive-aggressive Facebook posts." Yeah, hi." I forced a tight smile. "Please don't perceive me." Her gaze bounced between me and Drew, lips curved. "Didn't realize Mason's dad and Mr. Parker were so close." Drew blinked. "We're old friends." "Old friends," she echoed, finally got onto her mental crime board. "I just love how the school brings people together. Or, you know, back together." Another mom materialized. Mrs. Wynn, PTO treasurer, gossip courier. "Isn't it cute?" she stage whispered. "They look adorable together." Mrs. Peterson gasped like she'd uncovered the final plot twist. "I know!" Drew coughed, not looking at me. Ears now glowing red. This is not... "Oh, don't be shy," Mrs. Peterson cut in. "My cousin's hairdresser met her husband at a fundraiser. These things happen. Very romantic." I floundered. "It's not..." "You should both volunteer for the fall festival," Mrs. Wynn said, snapping her fingers. "The pumpkin patch could use masculine energy." "Masculine energy?" I blurted. "What does that mean?" "Oh, Ethan, don't play coy." Mrs. Patterson patted my shoulder. "And Mason's such a sweet boy. You must be a very dedicated dad." "Yep, very dedicated. To fatherhood." I was sweating, definitely sweating. Drew pressed his lips together. He was seconds from laughing and abandoning me to PTA shark-infested waters. "You know," Mrs. Wynn mused, "the single dads here are usually so... busy. Nice to see one engaged." I made the mistake of looking at Drew. His mouth twitched. "Very engaged," he echoed, deadpan. I nearly flung a muffin tray at him. Mrs. Peterson beamed. "Look at you two, radiating chemistry." "Okay," I shot to my feet. "We're gonna go supervise the kids. Yep, make sure nobody eats grass or starts a rock fight." I grabbed Drew's wrist, don't ask me why, and yanked him up. "Bye," Drew called, barely hiding his laughter. As we power walked toward the playground, Drew leaned in, smirking. "Masculine energy, huh?" "Shut up." "Very engaged." "Shut up, Drew. Half an hour later, the PTA gossip machine was already in full swing, and apparently I was the main headline. I was refilling my cup at the drink table when I felt a shadow looming over me. One of the PTA moms slid in beside me with a too-sweet grin. "Getting cozy with the teacher, huh?" she said, voice syrupy but sharp enough to slice through steel. My heart skipped. My brain went into overdrive. What the hell do I say to that? I forced a tight smile, trying to keep my voice casual. No, it's not like that." She leaned in, lowering her voice but keeping that smile glued on. "Oh, Ethan, come on. Everyone saw you two sitting way too close. And those looks? Very interesting." I swallowed hard. Gossip was poison. It spread, twisted, and turned your life into a public spectacle you never asked for. I kept my mouth shut, muttering something about needing to check on Mason, then slipped away before she could ask more. I found Drew near the gym, pacing like he was trying to figure out some impossible math problem. "Drew," I hissed, lowering my voice. "You need to be more careful." He looked up, eyes wide, pain flickering across his face. I wasn't trying to start anything. "Really?" I snapped, voice low but sharp. "Because it sure looks like you're starting a whole school scandal." He frowned, stepping closer, but I shook my head and backed away. "I was just talking to you," he said quietly, almost pleading. I turned on my heel before I could say something stupid. Something that would admit this was more than just about Mason or Drew or the PTA's obsession with both of us. Mason was my priority, always had been. And whatever this thing with Drew was, if there even was a thing, I wasn't ready for it to explode in the middle of a school picnic. I walked back toward the field, trying to shut out the buzz of whispers following me like a bad smell. 3 weeks later. It had been a while since the picnic, since the whispers, the teasing, the awkward smiles that barely hid everything left unsaid between us. The tension had been building, thick and unspoken, like a weight neither of us dared to lift. I showed up late to school that day, just wanting to grab Mason's volcano project before the final bell. But the hallway felt unusually silent, heavy in a way that made my heart beat faster. When I peeked into the classroom, there was Drew, still there, crouched alone by the glitter-splattered table, carefully wiping away the mess. The warm afternoon light caught the sharp line of his jaw, the soft curve of his neck, and that familiar crease between his brows that always made him look so focused, so intense. For a moment I just stood there, caught in the way the air seemed to still be around him, like the rest of the world had faded out. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the silence that had grown between us since the picnic. But the words stuck, tangled with all the regret and confusion I'd been carrying. Finally, I forced out a shaky breath. "I'm sorry," I said, voice rough, "for how I acted last week. I've been stressed. And I know that's no excuse." The apology wasn't just about the moment. It was about everything I hadn't said or done. The distance I'd kept, the coldness I'd let slip between us that day. I was trying to explain myself, to own the weight of my silence, even if I wasn't sure where we went from here. He looked up, those eyes locking onto mine with something raw and real. Something I'd missed too much. "I'm not here to ruin your life, Ethan," he said softly, his voice low, steady, almost reverent. "I never wanted that. I just never stopped thinking about you. Not once." His words hit me like a lifeline thrown across a chasm I didn't know I was still falling through. All the months, the distance, the silences. They converged into this moment. Something inside me snapped, the careful walls I'd built crumbling in an instant. "I didn't either," I breathed, voice barely more than a whisper, but charged with everything I felt. Even though I was so hurt. For that, I am so fucking sorry. We moved closer, the space between us evaporating like mist. His breath mingled with mine, warm and urgent, and my hand rose, trembling, to rest on his chest, feeling the steady, strong beat of his heart beneath my palm. Then his fingers curled around my wrist, steadying me, grounding me. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was fierce, desperate, the kind of kiss that spoke of all the nights spent lying awake, longing for this. The kind that burned away doubt and fear and every word left unspoken. His mouth was warm, insistent, familiar like the memory of a song I hadn't realized I'd been humming in my sleep. I pressed into him, needing more, my fingers tangling in the fabric of his shirt as if holding on tight would keep the moment from slipping away. He pressed me back against the edge of the desk, and I gasped into the kiss, every nerve ending electrified. The world around us faded until there was nothing but his heat and the rush of everything we'd been holding inside. We didn't go further, not here, not yet, but my body betrayed me. Every inch of me was alive with a hunger I tried to deny. When we finally pulled apart, the silence was charged with unspoken things, and also undeniable. Everything had shifted. Nothing would ever be the same. 5 minutes later, we ended up on the floor. Somewhere between the kiss and the moment our breathing finally steadied, we sank down against the cabinets beneath the window. Our knees bumped, stayed touching. Neither of us pulled away. His fingers brushed against mine, not quite holding, not quite letting go. Drew let out a soft sigh, the kind that sounded more nervous than amused. I haven't really dated seriously. Not in a long time, he admitted, voice quieter now, gentler. It's stupid, but I think a part of me never really got over you. I closed my eyes, letting my head tip back against the cool wall. My chest squeezed tight, full, overwhelmed. God. Drew? My voice came out low, wrecked. I'm scared. I'm still scared. Of me, he asked, but there was no accusation in it. Only quiet worry. I shook my head. No, not exactly. I'm scared of what this means, of getting hurt again, of what it could do to Mason. I bit back the rest before it tumbled out too messy. I get it, Drew said softly. I really do. There was a long pause. Not awkward, just heavy, careful. I'm not the same boy who left, he finally said, turning his hand palm up beside mine. More like an invitation, not a demand. I've made mistakes, I know that. But I'm not running this time. I want to try again. The right way, if you'll let me. I stared at his hand. My fingers hovered like they wanted to move on their own. God, I wanted to believe him. Wanted it so bad it scared me more than anything else. But before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Flinching, fumbling to get it. A text from Mason's after-school club. Reminder, pickup closes in 10 minutes. Shit. I stood up too fast, wiping my hands on my jeans like it would somehow shake off the whirlwind in my head. I must go. Mason. He's waiting. Drew stood too, but didn't crowd me. His eyes were steady, open. Yeah, of course. For a second, we just stood there. Me, caught between panic and wanting to stay. Him, looking like he wanted to say something more, but knowing not to push. We'll talk, I managed, backing toward the door. I hope so, he said, smiling. Small, unsure, but real. I left with my heart pounding. Mason's volcano clutched in my hands. And something else I couldn't name sitting on my chest. Hope, maybe? Or the start of something that could be. 2 months later. It was supposed to be just dinner. A casual thing. Low pressure. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But the truth was, the last 2 months had been anything but casual. Somewhere between quiet texts that turned into late-night conversations. Coffee runs that lingered longer than they should have. And those accidental, not accidental moments after school. It started to feel like we were rewriting something we never really finished. Like the space between us had never fully closed, but never fully disappeared either. And now he was coming over. For dinner. In my house. Sitting at my table. Like this was something normal. Like we were something normal. I set the table, triple-checked the sauce, and tried to pretend my heart wasn't pounding out of my chest. Drew showed up with that nervous, lopsided smile and a bottle of lemonade. For the occasion, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Hey, I stepped aside, voice tight. Glad you came. Mason was already at the table, hunched over his tablet, pretending not to notice Drew walking in. But his fingers kept pausing mid-swipe, listening, watching without looking. Dinner started with small talk. Too small. Drew tried. God, he tried. He asked Mason about his science project, made a joke about how the glitter from the classroom still haunted him. Mason gave him a stiff shrug, barely a glance, but I saw it. Mason's eyes flicked between us. The way Drew smiled at me, the way I smiled back hesitantly, but it was warmer than I meant it to be. And then the little things added up. Me passing Drew the salad without asking. Drew refilling my glass like muscle memory. The way our knees brushed under the table and neither of us pulled away. Mason noticed. His fork paused halfway to his mouth. His brows pinched, his lips pressed into a thin, suspicious line. Then Drew laughed, low and soft, at something I said. A real laugh. Familiar. Too familiar. Mason's eyes snapped to him, then to me. Why are you looking at each other like that? My stomach dropped. Like what? Like, he fumbled. Like how people look in movies, when they like each other. Silence. Drew sat back, hands suddenly fidgeting with the napkin in his lap. Mason, buddy, it's not... Are you dating? Mason's voice sharpened, cracking at the edges. Is that what this is? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He stood. Are you trying to replace Mom? The words hit like a punch straight to the ribs. Mason, no. No one's replacing anyone, I managed, forcing my voice to stay steady. Your mom and I, we were friends first. We thought maybe it could work, but it didn't. We realized we were better as friends, and that's okay. Drew went pale, his face folding like someone had knocked the air out of him. She lives on the West Coast now, remember? The place you visit every summer? I added softly. This isn't about replacing anyone. Not ever. But Mason wasn't listening to me. Not really. I don't want a new mom, he shouted. I don't need one! I don't want this! The echo of his voice bounced off the walls, sharp and bitter. Drew stood slowly, his chair scraping back. His face was tight, guarded, like he wasn't sure if staying would make it better or worse. Maybe I should go. I didn't stop him. Couldn't. Mason's breathing was ragged. His small hands trembled. And all I could do was stand there, frozen between them, caught in the wreckage of something I never meant to hurt him. The door clicked shut behind Drew, and the house felt emptier than it had in years. Next Sunday. The week passed so hurtful and slow. Silent days where Mason barely said more than a few words to me, where the space Drew left at the door felt like a canyon neither of us knew how to cross. So when the doorbell rang that afternoon and I opened it to find Drew standing there, holding a paper bag, nervously bouncing on the balls of his feet, my heart twisted. Hey, he said, voice soft. I brought something for Mason, if that's okay. I stepped aside before I could think too hard about it. Yeah, it's okay. Mason was curled up on the couch, arms crossed, but when he saw Drew, his body stiffened. Guarded, unsure. Drew crouched a little, lowering himself to Mason's eye level, holding out the bag like a peace offering. I heard you liked Galactic Ghost Ninjas, he said, cracking a tentative smile. Figured I'd bring you a few volumes. I used to love this series when I was your age. Mason blinked, suspicion wavering. You read this? Every issue I could get my hands on, Drew nodded. Especially when your dad and I were kids. Mason's eyes flicked up. Wait, you knew my dad back then? Drew sat down slowly, careful, giving Mason space but not making it awkward. Yeah, a long time ago. Since we were teenagers. We were really close. Actually, your dad was my favorite person back then. His voice softened, and he glanced toward me like gravity pulled his eyes there whether he wanted it to or not. Honestly, he still kinda is. Mason stared, processing, frowning a little but not angry. Just thinking. You liked him back then too, he asked, voice small. Yeah, Drew nodded. For a long time. But life got messy. We were young. Things didn't work out. And it's okay if all of this feels weird to you. It's a lot. Mason picked at the corner of the book bag. It does feel weird. That's fair, Drew said, no pressure in his voice. But I'm not here to take anyone's place. Not your mom's, not anyone's. I just care about your dad. And I care about you too. A lot. I want to be part of your lives, if you let me. Mason didn't answer right away. His finger slid into the bag, pulling out one of the glossy covers, flipping it open almost by reflex. The silence stretched, but not in a bad way. Just full of something tentative, uncertain, but soft. And then Mason mumbled, almost too quiet. Volume 7. You got the rare one. Drew grinned. I called 5 stores. A tiny, unwilling smile tugged at Mason's mouth. It's kinda cool. Yeah? Drew nudged him gently. Does that mean I'm maybe not the worst? Mason shrugged. I guess you can stay. If you promise not to do the cringy eyes at Dad. Drew laughed brightly and relieved and leaned in conspiratorially. No promises. Mason groaned but scooted a little closer, pulling another book from the bag. They sat there, shoulder to shoulder, flipping pages. Mason laughed. Real, belly-deep laughter at one of the comic's dumb jokes. And Drew snorted, pointing at the panels like it was the funniest thing he'd seen. I stayed in the hallway, silent, watching, trying not to cry. Because somewhere between the crayon-colored panels and Mason's crooked smile, maybe we were figuring out how to be something new. Something whole. Together. 3 months later, the sun dipped low, throwing soft gold across the fence as the smell of grilled veggies and garlic drifted through the backyard. The table was nothing fancy, an old folding one. A checkered cloth tossed over it, mismatched plates, and a big bowl sitting in the middle like a centerpiece made of comfort. Mason tore across the grass, barefoot, shrieking with laughter as he blasted the hose-turned water gun at imaginary enemies. His giggles rose over the hum of the cicadas. For once, he wasn't retreating. He wasn't tense. He was just a kid again. Drew stood by the grill, spatula in hand, flipping something with an ease that made it look like he'd always belonged here. Like this spot was made for him. And for the first time in... I didn't even know how long. I didn't feel like I was holding my breath, waiting for the ground to shift under me. Dinner's ready! Drew called, wiping his hands on a towel and tossing it over his shoulder. Mason skidded to a stop, drenched but beaming. I'm starving! We piled our plates. Simple stuff. Pasta tossed with tomatoes and basil, lemonade sweating in plastic cups, Drew's grilled skewers. Nothing fancy, nothing perfect, but somehow, it felt like everything. Conversation flowed easily. Mason told us about some ridiculous side quest from his game. Drew joked about burning the first batch of skewers. I let myself laugh without holding back, without weighing every word. And when the plates were cleared, Mason curled up on the outdoor sofa with his stack of books, already halfway through the second volume Drew had given him. The quiet that settled wasn't awkward. It was soft, comfortable. Drew shifted closer, his hand brushing mine, not tentative, not unsure anymore. Just there, solid, warm. His fingers threaded between mine like they belonged there. You, me, and him, he murmured, voice barely above the crickets. I'm not going anywhere. Not this time. I turned, leaning into his shoulder, letting his weight ground me. Yeah, I whispered. Yeah, we will. Drew kissed the top of my head, lingering there like he never wanted to pull away. And I realized I wasn't scared anymore. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something waiting to fall apart. It felt like home. Conclusion. 2 years later, Drew moved in with 3 boxes of books, a toolbox, and a framed photo of us from senior year that he swore wasn't sentimental. Mason rolled his eyes but let him hang it in the hallway anyway. I still forget to buy groceries on Tuesdays. Drew still loads the dishwasher wrong. Mason still leaves socks everywhere like some kind of breadcrumb trail. But there's a row of shoes by the door now, all jumbled together like they've always belonged that way. Some evenings I catch the sound of Drew's laughter mixing with Mason's as they argue over board games or debate the superior superhero. The house feels fuller, louder, warmer. We still have rough days, tired ones, stubborn ones, but they always end the same. Drew's arm around my waist, Mason's footsteps upstairs, and the quiet hum of something steady, something ours. No one's waiting for the other shoe to drop. We all stayed. The end. What's something that used to scare you about love that doesn't anymore? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome!